This is about amending rules and regulations at Westwood. I'm Sue Stiglman.
Hi, Sue.
Hi. So, before I get started, amending includes creating new rules. May not show up. So new rules.
I think it'll be fine.
Taking away rules, removing rules, and changing rules. So our rules and regulations is a document. We'll pretend this is the rules and regulations document. And we amend this in these three different ways, by adding new rules, removing rules, and changing rules. We need the laughing soundtrack on the back of this. So that's the topic. Now I'm going to do the 30,000-foot view. So the 30,000-foot view is that in our history here, members have made rules and regulations. They made the original ones, they've amended them twice. Members have also made a number of policies. The board is currently gathering up those policies and moving them into the rules and regulations. The legal authority for amending the rules and regulations actually resides with the board, which conflicts with what we have done. And so the board is asking for input about this. That's the big view of what the conversation is. And I'll go into more detail about each of these. And for the moment, I think I'll stand over there. Actually, I'm going to go back over here. So I'm going to give some background about our documents. There are four main documents. One is the Declaration. The Declaration is what created Westwood initially, moved it from the developer into Westwood Co-Housing Homeowners Association. It serves as kind of a constitution, lays out the rights and responsibilities that owners and the association have to each other. Another document that we have is the bylaws. The bylaws are the administrative procedures that we follow, that the association follows. Things like when do we have meetings, how are meetings called, what kind of officers do we have, how are the officers elected, those sorts of administrative details about how the association functions. That is included in the bylaws. Then there are the rules and regs. And they expand upon primarily the Declaration. So if we take an imaginary community called Eastwood, there might be a sentence in the Declaration of Eastwood that says each owner can have up to 2 dogs. Then the rules and regulations can have more detail about leashing of dogs, and picking up poop and other more details about the dogs. The rules and regs cannot take away the right of the homeowners to own up to 2 dogs as stated in the Declaration. So these two work very much together. There's another document that we don't use very much, because ours doesn't really say a whole lot, but the Articles of Incorporation. So that was the original, how Westwood became a nonprofit corporation under North Carolina law. That was through the Articles of Incorporation. They actually fit right here in the hierarchy. We don't refer to ours very much because they don't contain very much operational detail, which is a good thing. So these exist in a hierarchy. The Declaration is the most powerful of them, and then they go down. So Declaration, Articles of Incorporation, Bylaws, Rules and Regs. So if Rules and Regs conflicts with the Declaration, what it says in the Declaration is what we do. So these are those main documents. Up above the Declaration is state and federal law, also city and county law, which isn't relevant to the conversation today, but these are embedded within the legal structure, the general legal structure. Okay. And in the handout, I put some examples of things that are included in Westwood's documents, just as for examples. Okay, and the one that we're specifically talking about today is the rules and regulations. So, members amending the rules and regulations. A little more detail about number 1 here. Historically, the rules and regs were created in 1996. They've been amended twice, in 2002, 2009. And I included the minutes from the meetings in the handout. There was some level of confusion after the 2009 amendments. The board had some hesitation after they were passed by the community, and I don't want to go into trying to sort that all out. I just want to point out that there was some confusion about it. It's a rabbit hole that I don't want to go down. I just want to say, there's a rabbit hole. We don't want to go into it and start measuring for drapes and other things inside the rabbit hole. Historically, instead of amending the rules and regulations, except for those 2 times, what we have done is create policies. And we have created, I'm going to go back up to this board now. What we've done is we've created many, many, many policies, which exist. They're kind of freestanding. So some of them are called policies, some of them are called guidelines. We've made some decisions that are included in minutes. So in order to know what we decided about something, you have to go back to the minutes of a meeting. This is what I talked about at the August meeting, any of you who were here. This creates a big problem, in my view, and other people's views, but I'll own this as my opinion. It becomes very difficult to figure out what we actually decided about any particular issue, because they aren't all gathered in one document. So the situation we have is we spend time, a fair amount of time, in community meetings making agreements. And then the form that we make those agreements in and the way we store them means that it's very time consuming to go back to them. And what we tend to do, in my observation, is we rely on memory. However, Dan remembers them differently than Ellen remembers them, who remembers them differently from Frank. And so we start talking about what do people remember instead of going back to the record of the agreement that we actually made. So it's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. Every time we consult with our attorney about some issue, she has to sort through all of this very non-standard documentation. It takes her longer than it would if we were using standardized documentation, at least the standardized form of documentation. And she also has said that she's never quite sure she's giving us a definitive answer because she's never sure she's gotten all the pieces of paper, which we're not sure of either. So it's a waste of time, it's a waste of money. It's also going to cause problems, potentially cause problems, if we need to enforce any of these. If someone dies and their nasty nephew inherits their house, moves in, does not follow these things, and the board tries to use the powers that the board has, like fining, and the person files suit saying, you don't have the right to do this, there's a fairly good chance that a judge is going to look at this situation and say, you have got to be kidding me. There is no way that someone living in your community can reasonably know what the rules are, what the expectations are. So those are three big reasons: a waste of time, a waste of money, and we're setting ourselves up for a situation where we might not be able to enforce these agreements if we get to a position where we have to try to enforce things. So that's why it's a problem. The board appointed a subcommittee, the Little Rules and Regs group, which is me, Evan, and Jean, and we are gathering these agreements. So agreements we've already made, we're gathering the agreements to put them into the rules and regulations. Actually, they'll go into two documents. One is the rules and regulations, and then the other is a guidelines document for things that are more procedural, that aren't so much about policies. So we're doing this work of gathering these things, trying to put them into the rules and regulations. But we run into a problem. The declaration says how to amend the declaration. The bylaws say how to amend the bylaws. The rules and regulations do not say how to amend the rules and regulations. The declaration says that the rules will say how to amend the rules and regs, but they don't. The bylaws have a fragment in them that says that members shall have a vote in matters relating to rules and regulations, something like that, which implies that it's members as opposed to owners. For example, owners amend the declaration, owners and first mortgage holders, owners amend the bylaws. And so the implication is that when it comes to rules and regs, it's going to be members, which is owners plus renters who live here for more than 3 months. That's the general, there's some confusion around that too, but that's the general idea. But there is no procedure laid out for how to amend the rules and regulations. And there was a law passed in 1998, the North Carolina Planned Community Act, which says that unless it says otherwise in your declaration, which ours does not, then the legal authority to make rules and regulations, to amend the rules and regulations document, resides with the board, not with the members. So the board is looking at this saying, we have the legal authority, we got a legal opinion about this, paid for it actually, just to be clear. The board has the legal authority, but that's not our history. And so what the board is doing at this meeting is asking for input. We want to know where should we go from here. There's a range of options, moving back up to this one. So we could leave it that the board does this. We could figure out how to make it legal that the members do it. And then there are some options in the middle that are a mix of board and member. For example, one option suggested by our lawyer is that the board could amend rules and regulations, and then the members could, with a 50% vote, veto any amendment that the board made.